What's good, everybody? I'm Modi, this is Modi Makes, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do ballpoint pen drawing. So today I'm going to be going for realism, which is, if you've seen any of my other videos, you would know that is not something that I normally go for, but I feel pretty confident in this style. Ballpoint pen illustration is something that I'm really well versed in. I've done a lot of it. It's actually my favorite way of drawing, and this right here, the big ballpoint pen, this ballpoint pen right here is my favorite drawing utensil of all time. This is actually what I mostly learned how to draw on because I got my start drawing as a self-taught illustrator just by drawing during class, and this is what I happen to have on hand at all times during class. So I have a lot of practice with this, and you can actually get an incredible range of values if you know how to use this guy right. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that and how to get good looking illustrations going with the big ballpoint pen. It's an underrated drawing utensil, and I want to show everyone how good it can be and why people should use it more. So let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to be switching over to my illustration table here to do this. The first thing that we're going to do, since I'm going for realism and I want to get the proportions really correct, is I'm going to be putting down a grid line with the ruler here just so I can have references that I'm going to be taking a picture of that grid line with my iPad and then putting the sketch in there. So let's get into it. You don't have to be super precise with these lines or the spacing or anything, since I'm going to be working off of a photo from them and I'm just going to be taking a picture of it anyways. Whatever grid you put down pretty much works. You can even do a lot of like spray painters and mural workers will just put down like what they call a doodle grid, where you literally just put random shapes and different little characters and whatever comes to mind at the time onto the page or onto the wall, usually, since they're doing it for murals, and then you can just line up your drawing based on that. So I've got my base sketch layer down now, and I'm just going to go over it with the pen so that I can erase the pencil lines and get everything out of the way. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that you don't go too heavy-handed with the pen and make it too dark off the start, because some of these contour lines are obviously not full shadow contours, so you're going to want to make sure that you go about halfway so you can make it darker in the certain areas where it's going to be in full shadow. And I haven't told you guys yet what I'm drawing because I want to see if maybe you guys can get it after I do the lines in with the pen and make it a little more clear without the grid work. But if you have any guesses, feel free to throw them down in the comments right now and I'll see what you guys come up with. Can you guys tell what it is yet? So I got the main contour lines done now, and we can get into some of the shading. There's a couple keys that you got to keep in mind when you're doing this style. One is that you're going to want to be really careful in layering on your shading slowly for areas, especially the ones that are in mid-tones and stuff, because if you get too heavy-handed, you can't go back, obviously, but you can always add. I have a little more experience in this style, so I'm going to be blocking in some of the darker colors at first, but you want to be careful about doing that. If you go straight for that, there's no going back, like I said. The second thing is that whenever you're working in pen and ink, and especially with ballpoint pen, you don't want to be super scared about your lines. One of the things you're going to have to get good at if you want to do this style and practice a lot is making sure that if you make mistakes, you know how you can correct those mistakes and make them look good just by adding in more things, and you'll always be able to correct certain things. So just be careful, but don't be too scared laying down your lines, because if you get too scared, then your line work just won't turn out well, and there's always a way to fix your mistakes. right, so it's the next day and I'm back at it, and here's my setup. Check this out. Piece is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with where it's at right now, can't lie. I think we're gonna be able to make a really, really good piece out of this. And I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of advice for when you're doing this style. There's a couple things you really wanna keep in mind. So A, it's gonna take a lot of time. If you're doing realism with ballpoint pen, it's gonna take a lot of time. So just keep that in mind. Don't get too frustrated with it because it is really tedious, but the result is amazing and I think it's a ton of fun. So I highly recommend it, but just going into it, make sure you understand that, because this is about how far I got in, I don't know, 4 hours or so. That's including like making a really, really detailed sketch though, that was trying to go one-to-one with a reference image, which I will show you guys. And so that was a big part of it, but at the same time, it's still taken a long time just to get the lines down and everything. The second thing with this is that I personally really like to go very high contrast with my ballpoint pen drawings. This image has the xenomorph coming out of the shadows, so it's just made it really easy for me to block in a big black area that I can then work within, so I don't have to be really careful with my lines later. And the last thing is I realized that I haven't really been showing you guys how to actually get gradients and like light grays and mid grays for your mid values with the pen, because there's a really specific way that you're going to want to go about it in terms of how you hold the pen and how you apply low pressure to the page with the pen so you can get nice half tones and such. So I'm going to be showing you guys that here really quick on a separate page, just to kind of give you an idea of how I'm going about this, since it is supposed to be more of a tutorial video, and I realized I just kind of been like, watch me draw, which, I hope you guys enjoy doing that too, because there's obviously going to be a ton of that. But let me actually give you guys some education here in this educational video. So to show you guys this, I've roughed in a really quick circle sketch here, and I've drawn this circle here to show where the highlight is going to be and where the light source is hitting the circle. Obviously you don't want to do this with your highlights, because if you draw a line in like that, then you can't actually gradate it to 0, especially since this is a lot darker than you can actually get the pen to go. So for your darkest lines, which I'm actually going to leave a little bit of bounce light on this ball, because shiny objects like our xenomorph will have a highlight on the back edge where the ambient light or the reflected light from various surfaces will actually hit it. So when you're doing your darker lines, you can use the pen like you would in school and hold it directly up and down, really tight grip, so you can get a good fill. And another thing you're going to want to do, you want to go in multiple different directions to get a good fill in there if you want it to be smooth. But then when you're doing your softer gradients, you're going to want to hold the pen sideways like this and kind of out from your hand so that you can get some light lines in, and you're just going to slowly build up those lines over time. This is where it takes a while and it can really test your patience, and so you just want to try to make that as smooth as possible. And when you're doing this, there's actually something you got to be really careful about with ballpoint pens. The ink can get piled up on the opposite side of the pen from the ball inside the pen rolling and just running up against that surface over and over and over again. Sometimes when you flip the pen, you'll have a little pile of ink on the other side that can actually create a really dark line on the page that you didn't necessarily want. What I said yesterday is that you can definitely always correct your mistakes even when you're working in pen and ink. One of the best skills to have when you're working in pen and ink is actually to figure out how you can correct mistaken lines and make them look like they're not there, or make it look like it was intentional. You see how I can get it all the way from dark to a pretty light gray just by layering on that stuff. You then come in, I usually like to go, I don't know, like 45-degree angle, I guess, something like that, a diagonal to where I was working before, and get a new direction going in, and that'll fill in some of those gaps from where you were working before. You see what I mean? So you definitely get the texture feel. And you can go in at another angle if it's bothering you too much and there's too much of a kind of cross-hatching texture feel to it. And then obviously coming in as many angles as you can like this and smoothing it out will imply a smoother texture to it. And that can give you the desired gradient that you want to put into it. I think it's really helpful to spin the pen around a lot while you're working so that you can get it from different angles, because sometimes when you're doing this sort of a thing and you just use one side the whole time, the actual ball in the tip of the ballpoint pen isn't spinning, and so it's not picking up new ink. And so you'll start to get a variation of streaks from the lines that aren't exactly the pressure that you want them to be. I hope that helps you, get over some of the beginning hurdles if you don't maybe understand why certain things aren't working. So just keep that in mind and keep pushing through and you'll get it, no worries. By the way, if you didn't know that was a xenomorph from Alien and I just spoiled it for you because I know I had you guys guessing before, then you need to get your shit together and go watch Alien right after this video. It's my favorite movie of all time. I'm actually wearing the crew hat from that movie for the Nostromo. It's an amazing movie, the first one from the 70s. Go check that out. It's an amazing movie. So I just wanted to put that in there because I need more people to go check that out. And if you didn't know what that was, then you're one of those people. So figure it out. Finished blocking in all of the dark shadows around the edges of the shapes. I just need to get this last one right down here, this little guy, and the edge of this right here, and then I can move on to blocking in the darker shadows within the figure itself, and then move on to the smoother gradients from there. But I can already say that I think this is turning out pretty sweet, and I'm excited to see how this ends up. While I was off camera, I decided to fill in all the blacks in the background and get the whole shadow going on because Miss XENOMORPH here is coming through from the shadows and just appearing, you know, with a really, really stark highlight going on. I just did this with a brush pen. I guess this one is a Pigma brush pen. You know, it's the same as like your... I guess I just have a... Yeah, it's the same as your Faber-Castells and that sort of stuff. Very similar ink to that. So I just took the brush pen and had it sideways like this so you get wide strokes. And I had to go over it certain areas maybe 3 times, mostly just twice. You get one layer of the whole thing and it's really streaky and it doesn't look like a flat background. So then you got to get at least one other layer where you go over it really slowly and make sure that you're kind of going halfway past your stroke each time so that it's fully opaque. But it was just definitely worth it because this piece has been taking a really long time. I probably already put close to 30 hours into the piece itself. Like I said, this ballpoint pen drawing stuff is incredibly time consuming, and on top of that it's very fatiguing. It just really messes with your wrist and your arm, and even I was having problems with my shoulder and stuff like that, just because of the way that I was having to sit to dodge the tripod of the camera and get good shots for you guys while I was having good control over the pen for myself. And I was getting pretty burnt out, and so my line work and my gradients were not nearly as accurate and not nearly as smooth as they were earlier on, and I really didn't want to ruin the piece. So instead of just forcing myself to finish the piece and not having like the tail and the hand look as good as the rest of the piece, I just decided to take a couple days off of working on this. And part of taking the break was doing this background because while it's, you know, also kind of time consuming and a little bit annoying, it is obviously a lot less mentally draining and a lot less hurtful on the eyes. Actually, that's another one of the big things about doing these ballpoint pen drawings is you're staring at them so closely and just kind of looking at the different areas of value so intently that your eyes just start to lose their ability to focus, and the whole piece kind of just blends together and you don't know whether or not you're even doing well, or if you're making the piece look good, or if you're making it look bad. And then you step away from it for a couple hours and come back and you're like, okay, yeah, no, that looks good, we're good. Just things to keep in mind if you want to attempt doing like really highly detailed, larger ballpoint pen drawings. But, you know, it is what it is. I think art is more about enjoyment of the process and having it be relaxing and relieving and just overall an enjoyable experience. So I didn't really want to force myself to make this not fun anymore. And you know, if you're not having fun with a piece, it's totally okay to walk away from it. You can always come back and finish it later like I'm doing, but never be upset with yourself from walking away from something, because if you're not enjoying it, then it's just not going to turn out as well as if you are enjoying it. So just keep that in mind when you're doing stuff like this. So I'm gonna get back into it. Hopefully I'll get it finished today. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Holy Shinto, guys. I can't believe we're finally here. I can't believe we finally made it to the end of this piece. 2.5 weeks of hard work, long nights, just 2.5 weeks of drawing of this detail with a ballpoint pen. And oh my God, I'm so happy with the outcome. I don't even know what to say at a certain point. And you know, realistically, all I can say is thank you guys so much for watching. I wouldn't have been able to push myself to do stuff like this if it wasn't for you guys watching. This piece here almost broke me down a couple times. It was very arduous. And there were so many points where I was in the studio for like 8 hours, 10 hours drawing in a day, trying to get this piece out. And try to get it finished. And when you're doing that kind of stuff, you get later on in the day after you've been working for a long time and your body's aching, your hands are cramping. I messed up my shoulder doing this because of the position I had to be to draw. And that's the kind of suffering that I guess you kind of go for when you really love a piece that you're working on and you really need to see that outcome. I would never have done this without me making a video for you guys to do it, and honestly this is one of the pieces I'm most proud of that I've worked on in a long time, or you know, really ever, just because the subject that I chose was so multifaceted. There's so many tiny little details in there and a ton of just careful shading, a lot of different values all bumping up against each other, and you have to make it read, and it is so hard. And I know that a lot of people assume when you're a professional artist that you just work on art all day and you can just go for like 8 hours, 10 hours over that, and it's just nothing because you love doing it and it's just so natural for you. But realistically, that's not the truth. You can't really work for more than like 6 hours a day on a piece for a long extended period of time without burning yourself out. So again, thank you guys so much. I don't know what to say other than that. And I hope you enjoyed the piece. I can't wait to peel off the tape on the edges, just get the black matte fill in the background finished, and be able to get the final shots. But I guess, you know, let me know if you guys liked it. Let me know if you liked this video in the comments, and if you want to see some more of this ballpoint pen stuff from me. Let me know if you guys have any other questions about the process on this, because I know I explained some things, but some things don't necessarily come to mind, and a lot of the time I'm just synced in with my music. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like. It would help a ton. I would love to be able to show this to as many people as possible, just because I know I'm very proud of it, and I hope that people agree that it's worth being proud about. And if you like the channel and you like what I do here, a subscribe would be awesome. I'm still a very small new channel, so every new subscriber is amazing, and it'll help me be able to continue to make videos like this and continue to work on insane pieces like that. Although I can't say that I'm super excited for the next one. Outside of that, it's just it's just finally over, and we're here, and I guess I'll catch you in the next one. So here's the final shots coming in for you. Catch you next time.